Welcome to Soki Sports Talk, covering all youth, middle school, and high school sports, local scores, interviews, and special guests for all aspects of youth sports reaching Warren County and surrounding areas.
Welcome back, Southern Kentucky sports fans. This is Soki Sports Talk Radio. We will be discussing anything from scores and highlights and deep dive into issues within youth sports. We are no nonsense and hold no punches podcast. We are coming to you live again from the basement. My name is Nathan Perkins. I have a little bit of a voice thing going on this morning, so I'll be your host and guide through this crazy thing we're doing. I'm glad you decided to join us this evening. We have a pretty good show. We got a couple of things that we're going to throw out at you today, but we're excited to be here.
My name is Drake Perkins. I will be the co-host this afternoon / tonight or whenever y'all are listening to it.
Correct. We're just we'll say based on the time that we're in, it's good afternoon for us. But so today, we're going to be discussing a topic that's kind of prevalent out in youth sports, and that is burnout. We're going to kind of give a small information of what we've looked at and what burnout is. Some statistics around burnout, girls' voices versus boys in burnout, and then some of the main sports with burnout. And then we'll kind of go into some of those topics in a few minutes. But burnout seems to be a pretty good problem. So,
and of course, we're always looking for sponsors. So if you know anyone or you'd be willing to sponsor us, just send us an email. We'll get you in the show somehow, some way.
And with that being said, I do have a couple things as far as not necessarily sponsorships, but as we are youth sports oriented. Again, if you send me an email at Soki Sports Talk at gmail.com or a DM on our Soki Sports Talk Facebook page, we'll try to get it out here, send us the information. We do have 2 activities that are coming up locally here within Warren County. The first one that we have coming up looks to be on February the 10th, and that will be the South Warren Spartans Winter Baseball Camp. It is baseball season.
February 10th. You sure? Check again.
Says on the paper, the flyer, you're correct. February the 22nd.
I was about to say it's the 16th.
Yeah. I'm sorry. February the 22nd. Let me get that right. I didn't even see that over there. Again, February the 22nd. I will try to send out on our page, and please, we will try to do a little commercial type thing for these. But it is a fantastic opportunity for you to send your younger children, boys, girls, whatever, to get some hands-on from these players at South Warren Baseball. Not only will it be a good opportunity for them to get some hands-on work, but it will opportunity to get some of these good kids that are out there with this baseball program and baseball time. As far as information, looks like it is $50 to $55. They do our welcome walk-ups. It will be at the South Warren Indoor Hitting Facility. And I will try to, on our little video that we're going to create for our commercial for this thing, we'll have a Venmo for pay again, February the 22nd, Saturday, and at the South Warren Hitting Facility, baseball camp. Second thing we have for this little group, they've handed me over here, is South Warren Pancake Breakfast. Ooh, buddy.
I love me some pancakes.
I done been there. Rich Pond Market, you got to reach out to one of these ball players. I think it's March the 1st from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Rich Pond Market. Shout out to Rich Pond Market, but come out and help them. South Warren Baseball again, $8 tickets. And I'm going to tell you, man, it is worth it. Not only does it help these kids, they use this money to benefit for their spring break trip. They go to spring break. They compete against some of the top teams in the area, down there in that area. It helps them prepare, but I'm sure it's more of a vacation as well. But, hey, if they get to play some baseball out of it, they get to experience some things as a kid or as a student athlete, support them. Yep. Come on out. And, again, we'll try to watch our we have a little commercial type thing that we're going to put together for it to put out there. Again, anybody that has within our local Soki sports area, Allen County, Franklin, Simpson, if you want to get your name out there, you want to get your activity out there, reach out to us, let us know. We'll be more than happy to get on there and discuss this with you.
Yep.
So, all right. So, our topic today is burnout. Burnout comes in a couple of forms. These three that are not, there's a few that are not true signs, and we're going to talk about that. And basically, this topic is going to be, I will say real quick, is burnout versus disinterest versus injury/fatigue. So, a lot of that stuff comes from a different thing. So, but those three things are not potential, could be a red flag, but may not be a red flag. So, we'll start with that.
Okay.
So, a little statistical background here so I can get some information out there for these people who are people out there, our viewers. Would we say that, you remember our first conversation, how many kids participate in youth sports?
Now, to be honest, I don't remember.
Probably 60 million kids is what the statistics is by the youth athletic, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go into all the big detail, but about 60 million kids. So, if you take 60 million kids, it says, and you read on down to their statistics when you start looking at burnout for youth sports, it shows that 70% of those kids by the age of 13 are burnout and quit their sport. Now, there is attrition, there is other activities, there is not just burnout, but that kind of explains why, if you look at high school sports, that there's only 8 million youth that participate once they're in high school sports. So, and before we get into the kind of like that kind of thing, that's an interesting number.
That is a lot more than I thought.
So, I mean, burnout is prevalent.
Yeah.
But again, like we just discussed, there is a difference between burnout, disinterest, and fatigue and injury.
Yep.
Now, I don't know what your thoughts on. Let's start with fatigue and injury. I don't know how you think that creates the burnout, but what are your thoughts on fatigue and injury?
I would say overusing your kid's body. A kid at that age, pain is, they don't enjoy it. I mean, they don't know how to get through it. I think it's just kind of one of them things that if they seem like they're hurt all the time, they kind of lose. They're done with it. That's how I think.
Yeah, fatigue and injury to me is a kid will become disinterested or not necessarily burnout, but it is part of burnout. Burnout is a mental thing, but they'll become disinterested because they're always getting hurt. They're always having to set out. They're always having to, so they're going to find something that interests them and gravitate more toward that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and fatigue.
Tired all the time.
Wore out. So but fatigue also can be a sign. We will cover in our next part of our discussion about this. I think the next part, if I remember later on, is signs and actually causes. But we won't cover. I think there's 9 study located causes, but we won't get into them at all. But we'll just hit a highlight. But I will go over them.
There you go.
Or I think somebody will go
Somebody.
Over. But these are just potential red flags. It's some injury and fatigue. If a kid is always getting injured,
Per se.
air quotes, or they're always tired, that could be a sign of burnout.
Yep.
And then, disinterest becomes, I mean, there's a whole, we'll get into that in a little bit here in our show, but I listen to a lot of stuff. You know that. I listen to a lot of sportscasts, a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of stuff. I'm just a knowledge sponge. I like to, if I'm going to talk about something, I at least like to know a little bit more than my own personal, but I do have my personal opinion. But disinterest is multiple different facets from what I was researching. But I can tell you what I see, and we'll talk about that. And then burnout. Burnout is a mental thing. So our viewers don't get kind of, it's not a repetitional thing. It's not like something they're just burned out because they've been doing it over and over and over. Somewhat, yes. Yeah. But burnout is a mental thing, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So, I got a question for you.
Okay.
And think about this.
Let's see if I can answer it.
And most people don't think about it because I didn't think about it until I was researching. So we talk about 70% of the 60 million by the age of 13 are burned out.
Yep.
Like true burnout.
Okay.
That leaves about 8 million in high school. burnout more prevalent in girls or boys?
I'm gonna say boys, only because I feel like there's more parents put more pressure on the boys than they do the girls.
You
That's-
are
I'm wrong on that.
incorrect.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
statistically speaking, girls, I don't have the numbers, so forgive me. But statistically speaking, girls burn out faster than boys.
Okay.
And more of that becomes with not necessarily burnout, but disinterest is one of them. But as girls have a different play. Like boys do more free play,
Mhm.
so the activity is more fun. So like I can play basketball, but then a lot of these kids will go do a pickup backyard football game,
Yeah.
or a pickup backyard basketball,
Yeah.
or a pickup game, as we call it. The statistical information was given me was free play.
Mhm.
Girls is real low when it comes to free play, very low.
Yep.
So you don't see girls that participate in softball or basketball or golf or anything else. You don't see that as much as you don't see them sitting around the backyard playing basketball with their other girlfriends.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
So burnout becomes more prevalent in girls because if they're softball, that's all they do is softball. There's not free play is huge
Yeah.
in youth.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I
So
can
that-
see it.
Yeah, I could too. Once I read it, I was like, I never thought about that.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep. And then, so it is more prevalent in girls. So we need to be more mindful of that when we're. Softball is huge.
Yeah.
We know. And then, of course, basketball we talked about before is becoming super huge. So we need to be more aware as parents, as instructors, as coaches that we don't burn our young girls out and figure out more options to have free play. And we'll get into some more of the ways that we can mitigate, help reduce some of the what we feel again is all our opinion. What we feel is can help contribute. Shocking on that one.
Yeah, wow.
No more comment on that one. I thought you'd have some kind of mouthful on that one.
Nah, that still just kind of shocks me. Kind of.
So
Like I said, it makes sense though.
since how we're talking about those type things, again, statistically speaking, I have no hands-on evidence. All statistics and what I've read. So we've talked about that. There's a high percentage by the time they're 13 years old, and then there's more girls by far. So now let's break it down.
Okay.
Sports.
Okay.
What are the top 3
Are we mixing?
youth sport? It's not any sport that's either boys, girls.
So we're not separating. We're gonna
No,
say
it's just in general.
Okay.
What's number 1?
Softball. I think it's number 1. Softball / baseball.
I don't have a buzzer, but no.
No. Basketball.
Nope.
Football.
Nope.
Wow. Those 3 big sports. I'm trying to think what else.
Number 1
Okay.
on the burnout list, and I'll see if you can get number 2 and 3. We'll stick with that.
Okay.
'Cause after that, it kind of falls off. Number 1 is tennis.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
what statistically what they're saying is those. I'm like tennis. How does tennis?
Yeah.
Burnout, when we get into burnout, you're going to find out more from our discussion and what some of my opinion, and then again, it's like, oh, epiphanies. I didn't realize, think about that. But from what I even feel about it is, tennis is a what sport?
It's an individual sport. We'll call it individual.
Exactly.
But through high school, it's a team sport, but it's
No,
actually,
it's still in high school. It's not a team sport. It's still individualized. They do have doubles,
Yeah, okay.
but most of the time, you are competing on your own.
Yeah.
There's no camaraderie. There's team, but
I guess it's not really a team sport.
you're not counting on, depending on, or relying on anybody else on the court for you to be successful or unsuccessful. So you have a bad day, or you have a consecutive thing of bad days.
It's mentally hard.
It's mentally
Oh.
tough.
Yeah.
So you can get burnout because when we're going to look at some of the causes and some of what signs, I wouldn't say exactly causes, I say signs. Signs of burnout is continued failure. So tennis is the number one
Okay.
burnout sport
Okay.
amongst youth.
Yeah.
Again, there's factors that go into that we haven't divulged all the way through, but again, it's a lone one is alone. So with that being said, what do you think number 2 would be?
I say golf is in there somewhere.
Golf is number 2.
Number 2. Okay.
Number 2. Again, you're
Individual.
on a team,
Yeah.
but it's an individualized sport. So you see the theme that we're getting
Yeah,
here?
I do.
So what's 3? This one's going to catch you off guard because I like to fell out of my chair when I read it.
Swimming and diving.
No, because that's like track and field.
Racing football, racing basketball, baseball, softball. Ooh, we were trying to think.
This one's going to be probably be more girl oriented. I don't want to say that because I don't want to sound sexist or anything.
Soccer.
But no. Gymnastics.
Okay.
That is a number 3 burn. Now I can see that just for the simple fact they started 5?
Like if not younger, if
Yeah.
not when they start walking.
Right. So that one is not prevalent based on age or sex or any of that. That one is specifically based on gymnastics starts at
Such a young age.
young age.
Yeah.
So that's where that one becomes prevalent.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is
And again, like you said, it's individualized, but on a team.
correct.
So okay, that's like you said. I can see a common theme there.
Yeah. So I mean, some of the red flags as we talked about are burnout and with burnout. But you got to know what some of them are. We'll get into that. But there is a difference between disinterest. You're not just because a kid gets to be 12 years old or 10 years old, they don't want to participate in. We're going to use the sport that we're commonly comfortable with. They don't want to compete in baseball. I don't want to play baseball anymore. Doesn't mean that they're burnt out. It's just they're just disinterested.
Yeah.
They have other things they want to do. That is not what sorry, Dad. I didn't want to grow up to be a baseball player. I wanted to grow up to be.
Something else.
I wanted to play golf.
Yeah.
I wanted to play lacrosse. I want to play that. That's stuff that interests me more. And we'll get into what causes some of the disinterest later. Injury and fatigue again. On the injury and fatigue, if you're that more comes to lack of the coach's lack of preparation on, making sure that you're doing arm care or you're doing leg care, or I know when you run cross country and track, y'all did a lot of stuff for
Core and stuff.
core and preparation to prevent injury prevention.
Yeah.
And if the unfortunate part is, I believe some of our coaches nowadays don't have injury prevention. They need to teach a class. I mean, they really do. These coaches nowadays, even at Little League, don't even do injury prevention. I mean, yes, softball you can pitch 3 games in a row because of the motion is completely different and it doesn't put wear and tear on your arm.
Yep.
But we try to throw a 10-year-old 105 pitches in a game is absolutely asinine and crazy to me.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would even want to do that. I mean, even when I was coaching and I was throwing Owen on the mound, I struggled once we got to 70 or 75 because it's high. It's a lot.
High. It's a lot.
It's a lot. So, those are some interesting versus burnout. That's not true burnout. So let's actually get into some true burnout.
So I guess some signs, causes of burnout: loss of joy, motivation, ability and performance, aka peaking a little too early. Priorities change, lack of freedom, parents, frequent injuries, and quotations. I guess we could throw that in there too. Lack of success, having success but not the success they are looking for. Then of course pursuit of money by the industries. And that last one kind of threw me off, to be honest with you.
You didn't get that one, huh?
No, I don't, that's another one I don't get.
So let's go through these real quick. We'll try not to go into detail on all these too much, but a kid, loss of joy, motivation, as you said, that's pretty well simple.
Yeah.
If you will start to see burnout in a kid if, let's say, Dad, I don't want to go to practice. I'm tired. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It's not. That is an obvious, straight up sign. Now, that is going to be repetitive. That's going to be like more than like we've got 3 practices this week, and all 3 practices they're doing that. You might want to do a mental check. You might want to. That's what that loss of joy. But again, motivation on there. So, and motivation is let's say this: what motivates kids to play? Again, we'll use basketball baseball, basketball, and football. What makes those kids motivated to go do that sport?
Well, if we're going to stick with the youth, it's Little World Series.
That's one of them.
If we're going to stick with the youth, but if we're going long term, it's going to be pro.
Right.
Every kid wants to be a professional.
But let's back up a little bit. If you're 9 years old, you're not thinking about the World Series.
No.
What are you thinking about? I want to go play baseball with my buddies.
Yeah.
My friends.
Yeah.
That's where I want to play. So the motivation to go to practice is I get to see my buddies. I get to play with my friends. It's exciting. It's fun. It's great.
Yep.
You know, so the burnout gets really less if you're motivated or you're enjoying what you're doing. You know, so at a younger age, that's great.
Yeah.
We're having fun. Once we start throwing the what in there, does it make pressure? The win-win mentality. That's when burnout begins to happen, and they start losing joy, motivation, and that was a big sign. It's like I just said, I don't want to go. Another one of those as far as joy, motivation, and being there is again separating yourself from the team. Like when you're at practice or whatever, Johnny's doing his thing, but the team's over there cutting up and carrying on.
Yep.
So he's disassociated with the team. That'd be a pretty good sign that he's either not enjoying it or he's potentially burnt out. Again, burnout is a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a physical aspect. I mean, you have burnout injuries, shoulders, elbows, wrists from bowling, all those type of injuries. But that's not a burnout injury. That's not a burnout thing in my head, in my mind. It's more about little Johnny standing over here. He goes to practice, he does his thing, and he goes home. There's no cohesion. There's no team. And again, that motivates kids, and we forget that.
Yep.
We forget that as coaches. We forget that as parents. We forget that because we see we're always looking at 5 years down the road. Kids are looking at 5 minutes down the street.
Mm-hmm.
They're not looking at that. So we forget those to ensure that it's joy, ensure that we're talking about keeping them motivated.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to want to go. You wouldn't have enjoyed cross country and track if it was a bunch of people that you thought were stupid.
Absolutely not.
I mean,
absolutely
what
not.
drove you to go to practice?
Friends. People I went to school with. I mean, I'm still good buddies with a few of them. I still talk to a few of them still. From
Correct.
the days.
But it was a motivator.
It was a motivator. Absolutely.
If that wasn't that group, would you have been motivated?
Probably not as motivated.
But you would have
I would
burned
have.
out.
I probably would have. Yeah, I would have suffered through until it eventually got too much and I would have been done.
Yep. So I mean, you know, as coaches and as parents and coaches, we have to make sure that we're watching that motivation. And you know, that comes into the old additive. Well, it's not always about fun. Yes, in youth sports, it needs to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we need to incorporate more fun, and that's going to be one of the ways that we discuss about mitigating some of that burnout. Ability and performance. I'll let you kind of take on this one. Peaking too early. How do you think that causes burnout?
When a kid, your friends, we'll stick with the friends. When your friends are developing and getting better and better, but you as a youth, you're not showing improvement to yourself. You think, is this just what I need to be doing? Am I good enough to be doing this? And like you said, with it being a mental thing, that kind of hurts your mental health at that point.
Yep, and that's absolutely great. I think that I agree with you 100%. But I'm going to go to the other aspect of it as well.
Okay.
I'm going to go to the aspect of I'm the parent, you're the son here. I'm going to go to the aspect from looking at it as a parent perspective. Okay, so what if I'm on a team and the boys are having or girls are having a fantastic time? It's awesome. But my child at 10 years old is better than all other 10, 5, 4 players on that team. Mm-hmm. And as a parent, I'm like, I don't care about their fun. I want them to progress.
Mhm.
So then, as a parent, I move them up to a different ability, and they continually do that. And their abilities are far and beyond, but kids will peak.
Mhm.
So then they eventually peak.
Yeah.
And now they've been playing with kids that are their age or non ahead of them because I've been wanting to push as a parent. And I'm speaking from a parent's perspective. I have a right.
Yep.
And I am a parent. You want to get mad about it, DM me, message me, I don't care. But this is my perspective as a parent. And you push, and you wanted them to do the best, but you forget they're a kid. So then their ability, when they get to be 12 or 13, they peak.
Yep.
They're done. And I can name almost a bucket full of kids I have seen that over the years that have peaked at younger ages, and then once everybody catches up, they're burnt out. And burnout means they don't have the desire to play. They don't want to compete. They're tired of it. They've been playing with these kids. Everybody's been not as good as them. And then when they do get kids that are good as them, their ability looks really, really bad. And then they just get unmotivated. They get burnt out. So, ability and performance is a good thing. But they're 9, 8, 9, and 10. We need to keep them where they're having fun. And, and don't push it too early. Listen to a lot of stuff, listen to a lot of coaches, listen to a lot of college coaches, talking with a lot of college coaches. They don't want these kids to be burnt out, but they want them to be kids also. They want, you can believe this or not, but we'll get into it in the mitigation. But they have a specific amount of time they would like to see some of these kids take off. And, oh my God, we can't do that. You can't do that. Yes, you can. Because if you don't do that, then I've seen it. I've seen it with Owen. We push, and his motivation, his ability, his joy. What I mean by his ability goes down is because I don't care. I become unmotivated, so my ability will lose because I'm not doing the things I need to do to improve. So I'm not going to beat that dead horse anymore.
No.
But and then the next one, priorities change. Ooh boy, how does that not happen? So when you were a kid, we played baseball. You played basketball. Somewhere along the way, what happened? Your priorities changed.
Found out something I was better at.
But that's not what I wanted you to do.
No.
Right?
Right.
So when we have to allow our youth for their priorities to change. That's why it is a good thing also, and we didn't do it as much as I would have liked for most of our kids. But one of the things it is to allow them to be multi-sport athletes. Now, I don't, that we'll get into that specialization age and when that should happen or if it ever should happen. But I think that you've got to ensure you're watching your kids' interests. Now, we don't want our kids to be sitting on video games for 25 hours a day.
No.
We got to monitor that, but you really got to watch their priorities. Like, I'm a perfect example. I was an athlete kid all the way up until I got into middle school. I kind of saw some things change and modify, and it wasn't for me. And my priorities changed. I wanted to be a band student, and I did. I don't know if it bothered my parents or not. They weren't really pushing me to be an athlete, and I wasn't I was always going to be a rec level athlete kid. I was never going to be anything further than that. But sometimes our parents and our coaches don't foresee that, we had kids that played for us that their priorities changed, but for the better. Did we get angry at it sometimes? Did we get angry because they weren't putting the same effort that the other kids? Absolutely, I did. But I was not coherent of what their priorities were changing to. I was more looking about what I wanted. It was all about me. Some facet, not always. But that's the honest truth. So we have to be more aware of these kids' priorities going to change. I mean, they're 8 years old. They love baseball. I love going out. I love it. I love doing this. I love going out there and doing this. I love it. But when they get to be 12 or 13,
With the headache.
because there's something else that interests them. And we as parents and we as coaches have to be willing to go, that's probably a good thing. Until they figure out what they want to do about 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And then that changes the whole spectrum of the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
Lack of freedom.
Free.
That's the next one. Why do you think lack of freedom creates burnout?
I guess when parents of these youth players,
Specialized early.
yeah, I guess I was trying to avoid that, but I guess that's the best way to do it.
That's exactly what we call it.
I guess
we call
that's
it
the
like
best
it
way
is.
to do it.
So, specialized early means, I mean, golly, I think I saw the other day at work that there's a tournament coming up within a week or two.
Yeah. February. Jeez.
And then now, if you remember, before we ended our program, they were pushing those into November.
Yeah.
So how many months break do you get?
2, if that, if that, maybe a half month, and then start practicing.
So where's the freedom?
There's no.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and plus if you got youth, if we're talking about youth, you've got league ball, spring and fall. So you're playing 2 games during the week, and then 4 or 5 games during the weekend.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's there's no freedom,
Mm-mm.
and then we create lack of freedom. We say, okay, we got a weekend off, or hey, we're taking a vacation trip to Florida, so make sure you take that baseball and glove or that football.
Yep.
No,
Vacation.
you need time away.
Mhm.
They need time to reset. They need time. You need time to reset as a
Yeah.
parent. That you got to get away from that. You got to allow that freedom. You know, you don't want to say, "Hey, do you want to go hit some baseballs in the cages today?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay." But you go into the cages and you're like, you got to know that you can't be going. We're gonna stay here until you hit 200 baseballs. You got to get your head on. That's not freedom. That's a prison. That will burn a kid out. They get tired of that.
Yep.
They are children. They are kids. They
Yep.
are youth sports. You can do that to a 16 or a junior, senior in high school. You're still pushing it with a freshman and sophomore. Depends on the ability, the cognitive ability, what they've grown up to. But freedom. See, we're trapping them in a box, and we're making sure that we keep them held prisoner. Use my terminology, but into a sport.
Yep.
We're ensuring that.
Yep.
Parents, we're not going to elaborate on that. We know parents can be a burnout issue.
Pretty much just talked about it.
We just talked about that in a whole facet. Parents are the number one contributor to burnout, and was just as guilty as the next person. Luckily, none of my kids burned out or on any of that stuff, but I'm still as anybody else. Frequent injuries, we've talked about that. That creates some burnout. A lot of that is on, the coaches, but it will create burnout. You know, if you're injured, and then sometimes it's a good thing. If you're injured, you had to have surgery and you're out, and then you're out for 6 to 12 weeks. You come back regenerated, motivated, I think generated. I think that's what I said. But you come back more lively into the sport. You're more interested. You've had a break. But if you're constantly having injuries, you're going to become burnout because it's not going your way. You're not having success. You're not doing this. So there's multiple things that come into play that you're going to get burnt out. That makes sense.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then, so frequent injuries are going to cause you to burn out. You're just tired of. I'm tired of getting hurt.
Yep.
I'm burned out of this. Lack of success. Having success but not success they're looking for. Well, this is a big one. So you can go to me. What that means to me is they're having success. Like, I'm on a successful team. We're winning. But Dad, I don't get to play every inning.
Yeah.
Or Dad, I don't get to play every quarter.
Yeah.
So they have a mentality, or Mom and Dad or the kid has a mentality of success that they should be having. And, you know, the kid should be, hey, I should be hitting 500 every game, or I should be shooting averaging 22 points a game, because that's what they do. You're not going to have that success. They're not going to have that success. I mean, they're not going to do that. So if they have a high goal, and we as parents, if we set an unrealistic goal, and we tell them, well, you got to go out and do this. You got to go out and do this every game. They're not going to do that. They are, again, we forget these are youth players. They are being trained, molded, taught, however you want to call it, to be athletes in their sport that they're interested in. So if they're not having the success they think they have, they will get disinterested. I mean, if you go play on a team, and you just put this in a little bit of perspective. Let's say I go play for, and I don't like talking about our program, but our old program, but I go play for our old program. Man, there's about 3 things that we've talked about that I didn't see burnout out of some of the kids. Kids were always excited. They always looked like they were having fun. Even if they didn't like getting beat, but it bothered me more than it bothered them at times.
I think so too, yep.
So burnout was not prevalent. Now, you did have a few that did see that they weren't doing very good, and so their success was based on statistics. I'm not winning trophies. I'm not putting a trophy on my wall. I'm not getting the $5 ring. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. So they were being successful at certain aspects, but not what they thought they needed to be successful.
Yep.
So I think those kids long term will get burned out.
Yep.
And I've seen some of the kids that we've had on our program that no longer play baseball. Not due to burnout, I don't believe.
So,
Disinterest.
yep.
I would say lack of success at what they believed was supposed to be successful. But they have gone on to sports or other items, and they're very successful at those things.
Absolutely.
And they found that their niche of what they can do. So it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
But, it can be, there. Again, we feed false success stories into our kids. What we see successful is not what may be successful for our youth. And not every youth player is going to be a middle infielder. Not every youth player is going to be a 3-point shooter. We've talked about that in our previous. Be comfortable with where you're at, what you can do. Not everybody's going to be the quarterback. If you're the defensive lineman, be the best damn defensive lineman you can be.
Yep.
Be successful at that. So, so be successful at that. And that's why the team sports are so much less burnout issue.
Yeah.
I mean, team sports, you're not gauged on, like, baseball's a high one. Baseball's in between. But football burnout is not there unless you just get a terrible coach or a terrible situation. But, I mean, there's no, the statistical gauges are not there.
Yeah.
Defensive lineman is not going to get burned out on his success or not as long as he does his job. See what I'm saying? So you got to be successful. The last one here before we move on is pursuit of money by the industry. This to me, and this one here to me is more, I don't know about, I'm going to say softball, baseball. Hell, I'm not going to say football yet because we're still pushing the 7-on-7. But again, what we just say? When do they start playing baseball?
T-ball.
Yeah, but they start playing travel or.
Are you talking about travel?
Tournament.
7, 8.
There's no break.
No.
There is no absolute break. So they get 2 months. But the average number of what these experts per se are saying that you need to take 2 to 3 months off completely from your sport, completely from your primary sport. Take 2 to 3 months, go play basketball. 2 to 3 months, go play this. 2 to 3 months, go play that. But we can't do that as parents. If I ask you to quit running track for 3 months, because that was your desire to do, and I said, hey, go take 2 or 3 months off, you could probably do it.
I probably could.
But me as a parent go, they're going to fall behind. Hey, let's go run on treadmill. So we're constantly pushing our kids to go, well, we need to go to the batting cages 5 days a week, even though we're off for 2. We're not playing these 2 months. How many kids are in the batting cage?
Probably not very.
There's a lot, actually, right now.
You think so right now?
All you got to do is watch D-backs. They're always advertising for specials. They want those kids in there. Get your kid ready for middle school. Get your kid ready for whatever. Let them be 2 weeks. Let them have a couple of weeks. Don't do anything.
Yeah.
because you're going to burn them out long term, they're going to get burnout. And again, that's about money.
Mhm.
You know, there's no sense in playing baseball. We did it. Again, I'm not going to deny it. There's no 9 months out of 12 or 10 months out of 12.
Yeah.
There's no sense in playing one sport
No.
that long. So, burnout can be a lot of different aspects. You know, that we have to be aware of. So, that's pretty much what I see as signs and things that are creating burnout. But, you know, we'll see what else we got coming up.
I guess we'll talk about mitigating burnout. Some things that you can do, we can do, coaches can do, parents can do. Have some fun practices and incorporate fun into this stuff. Have a pulse about your kids' mental state. Talk about some other topics besides the sports that they're involved in that they could potentially get burnt out with. Encourage versus negativity. Still give constructive feedback. Help relieve the pressure and don't specialize too early.
Yeah. And so to elaborate on some of those that we talked about, feel free to jump in. I feel like I overtalk. You just have to jump in here. But one of the things that we try to do, and one of the things you have to do, I don't care if you're 16, 17, whatever, college, you've got to have fun incorporated into your practices.
Yeah.
I mean, these practices are so structured. It's like bang, 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 bang.
Mhm.
And then they leave.
Yep.
And they go to practice again. Boom, 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 boom. So structured. That is going to create burnout so quick because they're like, this is terrible.
Yep.
I enjoy the sport, but yeah, this is, you know, and we tried to incorporate a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did.
So I think that, you know, incorporating fun and making practices more fun is big in youth sport. Like we used to close our game practices out with some kind of random
Little game, whether
or-
it be kind of in team scrimmage or some
Yeah.
kind of fun little game.
and there was no pressure there.
No.
There was nothing there. It was fun. They'd pick out what they want to do, and if you remember, that was the best part of practice for them.
Yeah, it was.
They got into that. Now, not only does that build fun and have this and the other, that also builds team camaraderie.
Yeah.
That also builds teamwork.
Yep.
And again, what we talked about before is a lot of these kids want to be a part of a team.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of kids again will burn out because they're not part of that team. What I
Mhm.
mean by part of that team is little Johnny's standing over here by himself, and you got a handful of groups. And we've been on groups where we've been around groups or teams. We've been on teams that you have 3 or 4 kids that are like the team, and then you have everybody else.
Yep.
You drive in, you unload, you go play a game, 4 or 5 of them go do their thing, and then everybody else goes home.
Yep.
That'll burn a kid out from real quick.
Yep.
We've got one right in this house that got burned out with the program because of that, and a lot quicker than I anticipated.
Mhm.
A lot of that was because of it was not a team. There
Yep.
was no fun. There was nothing. It was not. Everybody wasn't involved.
Yep. Absolutely.
It was not pushed.
Mm-mm.
And the ultimate result is the team did not gel, the team did not play well, and they weren't very successful. We weren't successful as far as wins on the board, as far as win-loss records. We weren't. But if I look at it versus what we're discussing, burnout only, we were very successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we had kids that were dreading coming to practices a high percentage. We probably did have.
I'd say a few.
We had a few at some points and times, and that was, again, maybe not due to the kids' mentality. That was a driven conversation from the parents down. Well, this is stupid. They're not going to do anything that's beneficial. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're never going to get better doing this. You know, you're never going to get better if you're not good enough. If you don't have the talent, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can't teach talent.
No.
You can teach techniques. You can teach fundamentals, but you can't teach talent versus non-talent. I was talented in other aspects, and I wasn't talented at these. I couldn't get any better at one thing. You can't do it. It's not physically possible. You were given a certain skill set by the good Lord to do certain things, not this.
Yep.
If you're not, perfect this aspect. Don't try to be something you're not.
Yep.
So Where was I at? I lost my mentality here. Fun. What do you think about this? Have a pulse about your kid's mental state.
Maybe just check in with your kid every so often. If they look like they're not really enjoying it anymore, check in with them. Ask them, hey, are you still enjoying this? Is there something we need to talk about? Kind of just check in with the kid.
You know why parents won't do that?
Wow.
They don't want to hear the real answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
Why,
see that.
why in the workplace or anything in life, why do we not ask the question like that?
Don't want truth. Truth hurts.
Right. We think we are doing the best, or we have the best information, we have the best thing, we're trying to do the best for our kids, and I'm guilty, but we won't ask, well, how are you really doing with it? Because we're afraid of the answer. We're afraid that our dream for our youth is not what they want. Guess what? It's their life, ultimately. So we need to listen and have a pulse on it. Like you said, they come home and they're like, I don't want to go today. Well, why not? Well, I don't know. What's it going to cause a 7, 8-year-old kid not to go to practice?
But nothing. It ain't gonna hurt them.
Correct.
You're still developing phase.
You know, you can look at it from a different perspective. Somebody out there is going to say, well, we're not going to be like that because we're not quitters, and that's just keeping, you're just leaving your team out for this, that, and the other. No, you're not. You're right. That is probably exactly right in your statement. But they're 8 years old. They're 9 years old. They're 10 years old. That kind of stuff starts at 12.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start learning that you're valuable. What you have to be there. You're required.
Yep.
It's not going to hurt a 9-year-old kid to not show up for a practice because he's had a bad day.
Yep.
If you do send that 9-year-old kid, he's had a bad day at school, his buddy had something. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that happens within these youth players, females, boys, girls, whatever. There's a lot of stuff that happens during the day. They're not going to perform.
They might even cause trouble.
They might even cause trouble. Correct.
So
sometimes the best thing is to listen to them and take a pulse and listen to where they're at with their situation. Now, I'm a firm believer you need to be involved, go to what you got to do and get to do. But I mean, over the years, I've thought, maybe we pushed our kids to go to these things and they probably just needed a break.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having these 8-year-old kids having practice 5 days a week. Too much. Lack of motivation. All right. Other topics besides the sport involved. Well, that's a hard one. Have a conversation. It's hard for me because I'm a baseball guy, straight up, love it, eat it, sleep, breathe it. And then Owen playing baseball. It's hard for me to get in the car and say, how'd practice not go? Instead of going, I have to go, how'd school go? How'd school go? How'd school go? How's the girlfriend go? All those type of things. But, that also helps relieve some of the pressure. Take some of the pressure from them.
Yep.
They have a bad day. They're going to have a bad day.
Absolutely.
You're going to have a bad day, just like I'm going to have a bad day.
Yep.
We don't need somebody to beat us up over.
No.
We don't even want somebody to ask us about it sometimes.
No.
You have a bad day? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You want to talk about it?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Sure don't. Want to forget it.
Yeah. Want to move on. But we want to do that as the kid gets in the car. They want to get in. Well, what happened out there? Mm-hmm. Well, we hear, I don't know. Well, we want to be detectives then.
Yep.
I'm just as guilty, but we want to be detectives. We want to digest it. We want to ask the questions. We want to go, what's going on? Instead of going, okay, well, where do you want to go for dinner? And leaving it alone.
Yep.
Sometimes that's the best thing we can do. Check the pulse. Know your athlete. Check the pulse. Get involved in other topics. Find out what makes them tick. I don't do video games, but I know our son or your brother is big into video games, and it's hard for me to go, so how did the NBA or NFL show or whatever the crap it is, how'd that go?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to do that, but it has to be done, and I'm getting better. One of the things is, this is another one, to help mitigate some of the burnout stuff. These all things are minor things, but they create big problems with burnout.
Yep.
You're not going to continue to do something or do a sport or go something or go out, keep activity, if these are the constant bombardment of things that you're getting hit with. The next one is encouragement versus negativity. Now, you still got to give constructive feedback. But I used to tell parents, if you're going to coach in the car, don't car coach anyway.
Yeah.
Try to if you're going to car coach, give it based on what we're looking at, the feedback. But how about not do it at all?
Yeah.
Tell them how good they had today. Well, I did pretty shitty today. I didn't do that. Well, no, but you did. But you did this good, and you did that good, and you were. Well, I didn't get to play with 5 minutes, but you were an awesome teammate, man. You were the first one off the bench. You were the first one out of the dugout. You were the first one off the sideline giving a high five. You're an awesome teammate. Be more encouraging than being negative.
Yep.
And that'll create a long way as far as not negativity. So that's another thing that we as parents don't do. And then I think that'll help relieve the pressure, which is another one that'll kind of help mitigate some of the burnout. And then the other one it says is don't specialize too early. Experts say 2 to 3 months break from primary sport. Well, that's a hard one. A lot of kids will say, again, it's a hard one. Again, we're not going to get. You're not little Johnny, little Susie's not going to get any better or any worse by taking a couple months break and not doing something. You know, when you get older, it's even when you start getting into college and all that, it's kind of like you've got to stay up. It's like a job. We have to get trained every so often in our jobs, and that's just a reiteration of what we already know. But in college and in high school, it's more of a muscle memory thing. 7 or 8 years old, we're okay to take a break. We're okay to play basketball and not worry about baseball. We're okay to play football and not worry about either one. We're okay to do that. But again, the industries push that. They want to play basketball all year round. They want to play baseball. They want to specialize these kids, and it hurts them. It really does in multiple facets. So, you have anything else on that one?
No, I think you pretty much wrapped it all up there. I mean,
So
play multiple sports. I mean, I guess that's the easiest way to put it.
younger. I mean, where's the turn point where we have to start specializing our kids, but not to this age? So, I mean, basically, summary of our topic today. We talked quite a lot about burnout, and again, the basic premise of this is that burnout is real. Burnout is out there. Burnout has multiple different signs, and we have to recognize those signs. We have to be genuine to those signs and really not like, if it's one time, then okay, they're being lazy. They're not. But if it continually rises that they don't want to be at practice, they don't want to do this, they don't want to engage, then it could be a potential sign. Change your mentality. Doesn't mean you don't go to practice. Don't mean you don't do anything. But it's not like we don't talk about it all the time. We don't need to be engaged in it all the time. We don't need to be going to the gym or the gym, or we need to be going to the batting cages all the time. Need a break. So, you know, and those are some of the things that we talked about mitigating. Is just the biggest one that I would see out of all that. And I'm going to ask you what you think. What would be the biggest one first that you think would be a mitigator? Burnout.
Probably the mental health. Checking on our kids' mental health. Make sure they still enjoy what they're doing. Make sure that they don't want to break. That's the biggest one I'd say.
I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to agree with you. That's the number one. Checking the pulse.
Checking the pulse.
Mentality. Again, there's a lot of mental aspects to go into being a kid nowadays that we didn't have to deal with. You didn't even have to deal with some of it. So a lot of the stuff that they do in sports is reflective of some of the mentality, the actual things that happens within nowadays life for these kids. It's completely different. So I would say for burnout in youth sports and not to get them burnout would be more keep an eye on, checking the pulse, making sure we're good. So, I mean, as far as burnout, we got to make sure we don't put our kids in a situation where our youth kids where they're not going to be in a situation to get burnout. We have to make sure they're having fun with it. And then we also have to try to mitigate it. We have to make sure that we're checking their pulse and not like checking their pulse, the pulse of their activities. But we're checking those things. So, I think that's pretty well good for the...
So that's it. So we at Soki Sports Talks would like to thank you guys for listening. We've really enjoyed this conversation. I know I've really enjoyed this conversation. Learned some new stuff, all that. And then next week, I guess we'll start diving into local softball and baseball.
Correct. I think next week we're going to get into the actual sports. We're going to shift the gears a little bit. Baseball started. I'm pretty sure we've got rosters out. We'll start breaking down what we see, teams, players. We'll dive into that. And then the week after that, we'll probably get into softball a little bit. We'll try to stay with some area like baseball, Allen County, all those schools, and we'll try to break back down into the softball the following week. But, yeah, we'll get hot into heavy with that. So, finally, check us out on Soapy Sports Talk on Facebook, Softball YouTube. We appreciate you guys. We really do. A lot of good things are coming out of this. Just reach out to us. Let us know if you have any items or things you'd like for us to discuss or actually hear about. Again, check out some of our non-affiliated individuals. We got the Sporting Times, and now there's a BG Preps out there. Check out Max Preps. Keep up with those. Those are local goods, local individuals. And there's a radio station out of Russellville I was listening to today that carries local youth, or not youth, but high school sports. Keep up with those type of things. But again, reach out to us, email us, comment on us, let us know how we're doing, let us know what we're here. But I'm excited. We're going to actually get into the sporting part of youth sports. We got baseball coming in. Not that we didn't forget about basketball, but we started this thing in the middle of basketball season, so we're kind of fading into how we wanted to do this anyway. But one last positive thing on the end of the day. Again, with this, remember, these are our children. These are our future leaders, and these are our young athletes and our future individuals that could be politicians, pastors, business people, this, that, and the other. So we need to make sure that we are fully engaged, checking their pulses as far as not like whether they're alive or not alive, but more about what they're engaged in and lift these kids up. Today, again, is like I said before, we don't know what these kids go through versus what we were a kid. And life is tough and life is hard. And we need to be the positive influence as coaches, as parents, and particularly as, I'm going to say, coaches. Because sometimes that's the only adult influence that some of these kids have, whether it be mother, father, whatever. So we need to take that not lightly and be that sounding board for them, be that encourager for them, be that constructive feedback for these youth kids. And they are the future of sports, and they are the future of this community. So we need to ensure that we are guiding them in the proper way, the proper manner, and being positive and encouraging, along with giving good constructive feedback. But that's all I've got to say. I think we had a pretty good show again. I think we're getting pretty well organized a little better.
So.
It seems to be flowing pretty good. What else you got, Drake?
That's it. That's all I've got. Well, we enjoyed talking to you guys. I hope you have a good night, good day, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're listening to us.
We're out. Have a good one. See you.